Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Al.
My name is Bev.
And I'm Micah.
And we're here today to talk about farming games.
Woo!
Good job, because we didn't actually decide who was going to go
I know.
first.
I was like, I'm just going to go for it.
Alphabetical order always wins.
Oh, it
That's right.
was. Oh, fantastic.
We did it. Wow. Without even realizing it.
Well, welcome. This is the last episode of the year, and this is coming out on the 28th of December. We couldn't get closer to the end of the year if we were releasing on a Wednesday, which is very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is going to be
time for game of the year discussions, right?
Absolutely, which is what we're talking about this episode. We're going to be talking about our games of the year, not game of the years, games of the year.
Game of the years.
Yeah. Just the last
maybe we need to do at some point like a game of the year of the years after 10 years. Or something.
I mean, no one else is doing it. We could make a little niche for us.
And I'm just realizing this now. Maybe we should have done a game of the farming year, because this is the end of winter. This is the end of our first year of the podcast.
I like that.
I mean, it's a bit late now.
I know. But
This is the last episode. Oh well.
Next time.
Maybe next
game
time.
of the season.
Maybe sometime next year when I don't have a topic for an episode, we'll do that. We'll see.
Ooh. I mean, we could just have one every season. Like Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, we could.
It's crazy too, because we're at that point where there's so many farming games that's a viable thing to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like having like a wider thing that I was thinking of, like so doing it for the 4 years that we've covered the podcast on.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, look, I'm not organizing the podcast on the podcast, right? I will figure that out offline. So we are going to talk about our games of the year. We will have a little bit of news first, but just to let you know that we are recording this a couple weeks early. So if there's been something dramatic happening between now and then, that's why we're not talking about it. But there is still some news. I think like 2 days ago there was no news, and now we have a lot of news. But first of all, let's go with Bev. What have you been playing?
I have been playing Pokemon Violet a lot. I started playing... I know, surprise. Oh my goodness. And I've also been playing Doraemon because I knew I needed to review it for this. So I haven't gone too far in it, but it's still, fun to get back into Doraemon. And maybe I'll put in more time after today.
Did you play the first one?
I did, but probably like similar thing where I think had like a few hours in and then got distracted by something else, maybe like by Pokemon or I don't know. So yeah.
Fair. All right, cool. Micah, what have you been playing?
Surprise, surprise, Pokemon Violet.
What?
I am now in the late stages of the game where all I'm doing pretty much is shiny hunting and doing some raids to get some herbs. That's pretty much all I'm up to in that game now.
Gotta get the herbs.
That's right. They made it so hard to get them. We gotta.
It's all right. In a year's time, we'll be swimming in them.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. And I've also been playing Dragon Quest Treasures. Very, very good. Dragon Quest spin-off game. I'm enjoying that quite a bit. And I've also been playing Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion.
See, I saw this in the show notes, and I was like, "What is Crisis Core Reunion?" And then you said the actual game, and
this makes more sense.
Final
It
Fantasy
is a remaster of a PSP game.
Wow,
which is a prologue to Final Fantasy VII. It was my favorite PSP game. It's a very, very good action RPG. The characters are really neat. It tells a lot of the really good backstory for Final Fantasy VII. But I am learning through playing this remake that maybe some of the game is a little more dated than I remembered.
Is this
primarily
in
the
theming,
voice
perhaps?
acting.
Oh, okay.
There was all that discussion about Pokemon having voice acting and so on and so forth. And after playing Crisis Core Reunion, maybe voice acting isn't always the solution.
Well, this is what I've been saying. Like, don't ask for voice acting. Ask for good voice acting.
Right.
Like, you'll get voice acting, and you'll get, as I said on another podcast, you'll get what you got with Zelda Breath of the Wild with Zelda's voice,
I mean,
which was just so bad.
Who asked for bad voice acting though, Al? Like, who does
No.
that?
The point. I'm not saying people asked for bad, right? But they're just asking for generic. They're just asking
Are
for
they?
voice acting.
I feel like the assumption
Yeah,
is
they
that
say
it
we
has
want
to be
voice acting.
good.
Well, sure, but you're not specifying it, right? Sometimes you
Oh
got
my
to specify these things. They won't assume you mean good, right? Like this is Pokemon we're talking about.
Voice acting, to them, maybe voice acting is just voice acting. They're just gonna throw in whatever.
Some grunts.
Yeah.
Well,
or like those like text to speech.
Oh no! I mean,
Just do that instead.
Or we'll just get stuff like the
I might
Nobi
actually-
the Nobi noises in Doraemon.
I mean, I might
Nobi
actually really
grunts.
enjoy the text to speech because it would just be so bad that it would be great.
It would be probably very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Or it's just going to be one person talking through like all the different TikTok voice filters.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. SpongeBob voice, generic woman voice,
The sing-songy one.
Yep, the sing-songy one.
Amazing.
But I looked up before the podcast because I was like, I wonder why it's so weird. It's such like weird voice acting, and it was a design decision. It was like a style choice that. Apparently that they wanted the voice acting to feel like 2000s voice acting.
Okay.
Because the game is like, it came out in, I don't know when it was like late 2000s. But they said that they were shooting for 2000s style like anime voice acting, which is very the article that I was reading about it described it as like Saturday morning cartoon voice acting, which I feel like is very accurate. But after the Final Fantasy VII remake, which had very good voice acting, it's just such a weird choice. And it's even weirder that it's like all new voice acting and they decided that. Because it had the original on PSP had voice acting. They just
That's
redid
weird.
all of it.
Why? Why would
I don't
they
know.
spend the money and time redoing it if they wanted a nostalgia feel when you could have just used the original? Maybe they didn't have access to it. I don't know.
I don't know,
lost
maybe. And they're also, I think, including some of this stuff in the, like, newer versions of Final Fantasy VII. So probably the people that they're using for voice acting for this, they want to bring them into the other games. So maybe that's part of it. But I don't know. It's just such a weird choice.
And like acting has evolved so much since like the early 2000s. Like it's so much better. So why?
Big time.
Why would you go back?
It's very odd. I don't know. So when Pokemon
people be
inevitably gets voice acting, let's hope. Let's hope it's better than this.
Well, I have not been playing Pokemon Violet. I have been playing Pokemon Scarlet.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a second, you just
I did. I played Violet on release and had it finished within like 2 weeks,
Oh, I see.
maybe a week. I just rushed through that as quickly as I could, and now I've been playing through Scarlet much slower. So I'm doing kind of a Professor Oak challenge, but not quite. Like, it's complicated in this game. Basically, I'm trying to catch as many Pokemon as I can before I do anything else in the game. So, like, it's a lot of Pokemon. It's like 360 or something like that. So,
Yeah.
it's going to take a while, especially as I'm only playing it a couple hours a day at most.
Are you enjoying that? Because that sounds a little painful.
I am.
Okay.
No, I'm enjoying it. It's good fun. Like, I feel like I'm exploring the world more than I would otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, like, and this game is quite interesting compared to previous ones, where, like, previous ones, the idea was, like, you had to do every Pokemon up to a certain gym before you could do that gym, right? So any Pokemon that you could get. But the only way to get most of the Pokemon was to evolve them, right? Whereas in this game, so many of the higher level ones are available in the wild from the beginning.
True.
So like you have that balance of like, oh, am I going to evolve these ones, or am I going to go and find where it is in the overworld and catch it instead? So it's been quite a fun balance that has. And yeah, it means I've just been exploring every nook and cranny. So like I've only explored maybe like a fifth of the map, but I've explored everything in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it feels huge when you do that. Like it's just there's so many random little places with random more Pokemon that you didn't find in the previous area, and then some items and stuff like that. It feels really, really fun. Yeah,
Okay, good. Because I was just gonna say, like, trying to catch 100 Pokemon and then go to the next gym sounds like a lot. But when you put it that way, yes, it isn't. It would be enjoyable. Okay,
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And like, so I did it with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and like the most painful one was the first gym because you obviously have to get your starter all the way up, but also there were at least 2 other Pokemon that you had to get 2 evolutions, and they weren't bug Pokemon. So, so that and like there was almost nothing you could use to. So like that was really painful. But after that, it was much more fun. And it's a fun. The gameplay doesn't have to be fun for it to be a fun challenge. And like, you know, sometimes it's satisfying just to have done it.
Right.
And it's not like I'm spending 100% of my gaming time doing that, you know?
true.
Yeah. Yeah, I had, I guess, inadvertently been doing Professor Oak challenges when I play Pokemon games. Because just the collector in me is just like, can't leave the area until I know I've caught everything here. But yeah, that's how I played Violet initially, the way that you're playing it now, which was just not with the intention of catching everything in the area or like catching everything I can before I move on, just mostly exploring as much as possible. Like it took me 100 hours to finish the actual story to Violet because I spent so much time just exploring.
Yeah. Well, and this is why
very unique to this Pokemon game, you know.
Yeah. I was going to say something else, but let's not keep talking about Pokemon.
I can keep talking about Pokemon.
There's more Pokemon in the greenhouse episode, and I've talked to death these Pokemon games, so I think we're good with Pokemon. I have also been playing Cult of the Lamb because I hadn't played it, and I knew I needed to play it before we did this episode. Because there's no way that I could justify not having played this game.
Definitely.
And then I'm not like a huge amount through it, but I'm through it enough to know whether I have been enjoying it enough to put it on my list, and you'll find out about that later. And I've also, of course, been playing Marvel Snap because that is my life now.
No way. What's Marvel Snap?
I've been trying like a few different kinds of decks this week, which has been fun.
Yeah.
And like there's one that I've been doing, which is the one that I did today, which is, so there's a couple of cards. There's one called Sunspot, which is, it only costs 1, but for each turn, for every unspent energy you have, it gains 1 power. So like you can get it like really high that way if you don't play any other cards. So like I'm basing my entire deck around basically just that just now. So like you can get it up to 15 power by the end, and then by the end of turn 5, and then you have turn 6 to do something to win the game in. And I have an Arnim Zola which like destroys a card and then recreates it in both of the other locations. So you essentially double the card you have. And I've been having some fun with that. It doesn't work amazingly, but I feel like there's an interesting strategy there that I could make into a better deck. And it only really works if you get that card at the beginning, which is obviously really hard. But I have some other strategies within that deck as well. It's not just a one thing deck. But yeah, so I've been having fun like building up some other strategies. But my favorite one is still I have a Venom deck, which can get some really high scores if you have everything run perfectly, which is good fun.
Cool.
Do you have any cool alternate arts?
Oh, I love there's three kinds of alternates that I love the most. One is the baby, so there's baby ones, which is just so much fun.
Goodness.
I have a baby Wolverine, which is just so fun, and I've got it like with the rainbow backing now as well. So I've got a rainbow backed baby Wolverine, and he's just so cute. It's so fun. The second one is the chibi variants. They're kind of like the baby ones, obviously, but they're not quite the same. They're also quite good fun.
Are they like?
And the third one, which is, I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask, are they like Funko like Pops versions, or are they more?
Yeah, that kind of
like the soulless black eyes in there too.
No, they feel like they have personality in them. But it's just like, of a smaller bodies, bigger heads sort of thing.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Sure. Kind
of babyish, but different. It's hard to describe the difference between baby and chibi.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why I like both of them. I just got a chibi Patriot, which is just so cute, like him marching into battle as a little chibi Patriot.
I didn't know there were baby and chibi versions, and this might be what brings me fully into this.
What's selling you on it?
And my third favorite kind is, it's combined because they're basically the same, but it's venomized and carnageized ones. So it's like a normal person, but they have the venom or carnage face.
Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. So like, there's a really good Spider-Woman one where it's Spider-Woman, but she's Venom. It's just so fun. Like, you've got this card that otherwise looks exactly the same as the normal card, but the face is Venom or Carnage. It's just so fun.
I can see that.
So if you don't look at it closely, you won't realize what it is, and then you it's like when you see like a Ditto or something with the Ditto face rather than the proper face. Uh-huh. You're just like, there's something wrong here. So yeah, those are my favorite variant cards. Cool. Well, shall we talk about some news?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean,
am so excited. All right, so it's just me and Micah now.
I'm here to talk about Pokemon more. I don't know what.
So I love that this has happened, how it's happened. I cannot tell you how many times this happens, but we have, yet again, some brand new Harvest Moon news when Micah's on the podcast.
Yeah.
Micah's only on the podcast like tradition. 2 or 3 times a year, and this keeps happening, and I don't understand how this keeps happening.
I will it into existence is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new announcement of a new Harvest Moon game coming summer 2023, and this is called Harvest Moon: The Winds of Anthos. Do you think it's Anthos?
Anthos, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
Something like that.
We don't know a huge amount about this game. Obviously, we don't have any screenshots or videos or anything. We don't even know what platforms it's coming on, although I suspect it's pretty safe to say that it's probably coming on Switch and probably coming to Steam.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect probably also coming to PlayStation. I can't remember whether it generally comes to Xbox or not.
I don't know, I guess. I'm not sure. I think One World came to everything.
I know it definitely came to Switch and PlayStation and Steam, but I don't know whether it came to Xbox. Anyway, not important. We'll find out later. We'll let you know when we know. But we have a couple of quotes from the company Natsume and press releases, stuff like that. So the first one is from a tweet. The new Harvest Moon will take players to new lands and include features that are completely new to the series. We are eager to reveal more next year since we still have so many big surprises planned for this remarkable anniversary. So is next year the anniversary of Harvest Moon?
I think so. I think it's the, 35th anniversary? 25th, sorry.
25th. It feels a little bit cheeky, I'll be honest with you. It feels a little bit cheeky, Natsume claiming the anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
25th anniversary of the name of the series.
So it's 25th is next year for
Wonderful
Harvest
Life,
Moon.
which is why
the 25th anniversary was this year for Japan.
Oh, got it.
So for,
that's why, because they
so
did.
It's Japan in 96, North America in 97, and Europe in 98.
Because they missed it in Japan, and that's why they just 25th, because it's technically going to be 26th.
It's because the Western audience is easier to trick into buying the games because
Oh wait, no,
less
this year is
aware of
this year's
the-
25th in North America. 1997 is 25 years ago now, not next year. So Japan was last year, North America is this year, and Europe is next year. So we're actually celebrating the European one with the new game. Bizarre. Anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Whatever
Doesn't
they decide
matter.
they want to do at this point.
They're just what is a 25th anniversary anyway? None of it matters. So we got some more information in the press release. The land players will explore is known as Anthos and is home to the harvest sprites. Shocker. Spirits that protect people and nature, as well as the goddess of nature known as the harvest goddess. However, about 20 years ago, an unprecedented eruption in Anthos's volcanic region forced the harvest goddess and her harvest sprites to use all of their powers to protect the people. The people were saved, but the eruption left the villages cut off from each other. Believing that the separated villages and people would one day be reconnected, the harvest goddess sent a bottle into the ocean with a letter and a magic key, then fell into a deep sleep.
Okay.
What do we think about this?
I hope they're sailing around on winds to get to these separated towns. That's my prediction.
I like the idea that they're going into the story of the harvest goddess and the harvest sprites a little more, and they're like origins or their location or where they come from. But still hesitant. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them to make a good and successful entry without Marvelous. I don't expect that. I'm not expecting a lot. I'm keeping my expectations in check, but I guess I'm hopeful that they can make something of it.
There will be new
Were
features.
you hopeful about One World?
I was a little hopeful of One World. Also reminded me why I keep my expectations in check for Harvest Moon.
They have new features, so maybe. They're trying.
Yeah, we'll see. Look, I really liked some of the ideas in One World. It was a really complicated game. It just wasn't implemented well, and a lot of weird design decisions. But I still believe they can do a really good game. I'm really annoyed. Like I keep getting fed up with the people who are like, "Oh, stop using the name," blah 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 blah. Sharp, right? Like, we're way past that, right? Just this game is not necessarily going to be bad. It might be bad, but if it's bad, it's not because it's Natsume using the Harvest Moon game. It's bad because they still haven't figured out how to make a good game,
right?
Right?
It's bad because they are trying to figure out their way around development rather than publication. I think, which is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more around the design of things. Like, I think the development isn't actually too like. The game wasn't buggy, right? The game did what it was meant to do. It's just that what the game did was bad.
There were some times where like the textures just didn't load, and
I mean, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. No game is perfect, but like, it's not like it was a complete buggy mess, right? Like, it's just that it wasn't fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But like you said, there were things about it that, were very cool ideas. It's just, I don't know. I think their writing and their like story design is decent. And that always kind of makes me a little hopeful, but I think they just gotta...
Their ideas for a world and their ideas for concepts that would make farming games more interesting. They're really good. Like the concepts and the ideas they had for One World were very interesting. The idea of like, oh, you have to like figure out how to farm, right? That was interesting. It's just that the game around it wasn't fun. There were lots of weird decisions and lots of bad quality of life changes,
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's coming out in summer 2023. So I guess let's... Micah, we'll talk after this. We'll get a date in the diary.
I think we have
to. Next, we have some more information about Haunted Chocolatier. So this is the new game coming from Eric Barone, who's the developer for Stardew Valley. So there's a big interview with Screen Rant. I've picked out a couple of quotes that I thought were quite interesting in terms of like giving us a feel of what this game is going to be like. Because personally, I'm really excited after reading this interview. So the first one, this is Eric talking. With Stardew, people are going into the game expecting a country setting, so it would be kind of weird if it was super magical. But if you're going into the game knowing that it's a haunted castle, I have a lot of wiggle room there to add crazy stuff. And I think it will fit within the theming of the game, so it won't feel out of place. And the second quote is, again, Eric, I think the core of the game is actually gathering ingredients. That's the biggest part of the game. The shop is a little more passive, but the idea is you can run the shop yourself until you start getting help from the ghosts. So you can automate all of that, and then you're just giving the shop chocolates and designing the shop. There'll be a lot of features in the shop. For example, you can get a hot cocoa bar or something, and then customers can now do that. So I think we get kind of an idea of how the gameplay loop will work. It seems much more focused around the combat style of things and use like hunter-gatherer type gathering of ingredients, and then coming back and I guess in a way it kind of feels like the gameplay loop of Cult of the Lamb, right? You go off somewhere and you do a bunch of combat and you come back and build up a thing based on what you got.
I'm excited. I mean, it's there's a lot of expectations, and unlike with Harvest Moon, I have high expectations. So it'll be interesting to see if Eric's able to meet those or if we're going to fall a little short. But I'm still very excited for Haunted Chocolatier, and this is making me even more so, I think.
Yeah, it looks really great. I really love the art style for this a lot. The like weird mix of 3D in some spots and the like hand drawn. I was reading that same article, that Screen Rant article, and Eric was talking about drawing with a mouse rather than like pixel art because they'd learned pixel art for Stardew Valley and never done it before.
Oh.
And this is more like similar to what their actual style is. And I really like it. It's very weird, scribbly, like it's got its own charm. And it kind of reminds me of, there's a Japanese developer that I really like called Onion Games. They've made games like, I don't know if you've heard of like Tulip, Dandy Dungeon, like a handful of really good games. And it's that same kind of style where it's very like weird and scribbly and non-traditional, I guess. So I really like that. It looks really good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's a lot more in the interview, so I'll link that in the show notes. He also talks about the music video that he made for a band, which is very weird. Amusingly, he talks about that. He made that video as like using the Haunted Chocolatier engine. So like he'd like scripted it out as a video in his video game engine, which is just like the most like software developer way to make a video. Is like, I'm not going to animate this I'm going to animate it like a game, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just amazing and I love it. Like, it's just like the most like hacker type thing. Like, I'm just going to do what I use what I know, which I really love.
It's really good.
And yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff about like timeline. He says that he's expecting a couple more years of development, so don't expect anything next year. And yeah, we'll see how things. I'm really looking forward to it, but obviously we need it to be good.
Yeah, it's good that it's not coming out next year because next year is the anniversary of Harvest Moon, and they're gonna sweep. So.
Very true. You can't have a non-farming game made by Eric that isn't. I have lost my chain of thought there. Well, because like Stardew Valley had Harvest Moon like elements and like inspiration, right? So like having that would That would be awful, Eric. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't upstage them.
Yeah.
Look, honestly, like see if in a year's time we're seriously considering the new Harvest Moon game as game of the year. I'll be so happy. I really will. Like, I want them to be a good game.
Yeah. What
But anyway, Haunted Chocolatier, game of the year 2024 or 2025, probably. We have. It's funny. Like the expectations is hilarious because it's like we've literally played one game that he's made. Like we have no idea if this was just coincidence that he got a really good game or whether he can actually do that. But I guess we'll find out in a couple of years' time.
Right.
Yeah.
There was also some information in that about Stardew 1.6. So we haven't had like very much information about this. We know that it is meant to be coming because he replied to someone's tweet a few months ago saying that it was going to come and it was mostly going to be focused around modding. But anyway, so he said he's still working on it. That's basically all I've got. But it's good to know that like this is an update that is still coming. He's still working on it. We'll see what happens. But don't go expecting loads of big new features in Stardew. He said it's specifically meant to be like a modding update, which is cool in and of itself. I really want someone to get like a good modding engine on consoles, because it just doesn't really exist.
Yeah, or like a marketplace for it or something.
Yeah,
nice.
Just something.
The like Skyrim and Fallout and stuff like that has done that, where you have it's like a marketplace of mods that you can add to the game. But I do know that it's like they go through like an approval process so that it doesn't break your game or
I'm okay with that. Like, but my point is like I just want to be able to get it on consoles. Like, I mean, to be honest, like if I'm going to play some more Stardew, I might actually do it on my Steam Deck because you've got the modding support on there, presumably.
Yeah, you do.
But it would be really nice for people who don't have a Steam Deck because they're expensive and hard to get. Well, not hard to get anymore, but they're still expensive.
Yeah.
And a Switch Lite is much cheaper.
Yeah.
It's true. It's very true. My partner Becky had said, she has played more Stardew than I think any person I've ever met. She's the first person that I had met to like 100% the game, which is
wow
wild to me.
I didn't even think it was
I've
possible.
never seen that. I watched her do the like 100% like cutscene or whatever it was, because I had never seen it. So,
wow.
But she very naively asked at one point, because she saw somebody, I think either on YouTube or on TikTok or something, Stardew Valley mods, and she showed me the TikTok and then said, how do I put mods on my Stardew Valley? And she's playing on the Switch, so
rubbish.
I was like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't. And I had to like sadly explain why, but I think that for people like her that don't really know that like these things exist, or they do see them but they can't get them on console, I think it would be really great to have that
definitely.
that option, because there's so many neat things that people make for Stardew.
I know, right? Like
that
some people have so many ideas
like
that would never get into these games.
Yeah. So.
I feel like we need to get her on the podcast if she's that into Stardew Valley.
It's incredible. The amount of stuff that I've watched her do in Stardew is like things I never knew existed in the game. It's incredible.
Nice.
I feel like I need to do some more Stardew.
I know.
It's winter. Stardew Valley time.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get back into it because I do eventually want to 100% it, and I've never gotten to some of the I guess you can call it end game stuff, but I will hopefully get there one day.
I don't think I've ever actually done any of the proper 1.5 update stuff either, so I need to do that. I've still not done an episode on it. Maybe we should do that next year. Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. We finally have some information on the premium edition, which is what they're calling it, their expensive edition this time. And you get a goat plushie with this one.
Fantastic.
Yes. So excited.
That is a good plushie.
It is.
It is a good plushie.
Looks very fluffy.
Look at that Little
It looks
chin tuft.
Oh,
so
the
content.
tough. Uh-huh.
It's very cute. There is a reply on Twitter to that tweet that is General Grievous from Star Wars saying, this will make a fine addition to my collection. And that is exactly how I feel about all these little tiny Story of Seasons plushes.
Yeah.
I hope they never stop doing that.
It's amazing. They're so good. You also get a cloth poster, which is interesting. A cloth poster cutely packaged in a custom box with an original illustration by series illustrator Egusa Matsuyama.
Nailed it.
Amazing. Pre-order details coming soon.
Oh, I want to go.
It's pretty cute. Very
It's
cute
all right,
plush.
Bev. You cannot order it just now, so
Okay,
you're fine.
good.
Take some time. Update, by the way, on the previous episode. I have not bought the Stardew Valley winter cassette tape. I haven't bought it yet.
Why not?
Look, right. Here's the thing. See if they just put up, like, we all know, because they called it winter cassette, we all know there's going to be another 3.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If they put up all of them at once, I would buy them, 100%. I don't
Yeah.
want to pay for postage 4 times.
That's how they get you.
Yeah.
Postage
You're
from
right.
America
That's
to
true.
Europe is so expensive, and I don't want to pay that 4 different times for 4 things that could go in one package.
I mean, they may have
That's true.
They may have a bundle at some point when they have all of them, right? Hopefully.
The winter one is only available until the end of February.
Well, that's what they say now.
Until they do a bundle, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I feel
I mean,
like
well,
they
let's-
have to
the-
do a bundle, right?
They have to.
I really hope they do.
But here's
I
the
really hope
catch.
they do.
If they don't, then you missed winter.
Exactly. That's the thing. And it's like I either go all in now or I risk not getting them.
Yeah. And
But also they're cassettes.
There's
Why do I care?
also-
Why do I care about this? I don't understand
I was
why I
just
care about it.
thinking, I don't even know that I have anything in my house at the moment that would play a cassette.
I
To be honest.
bought a cassette
I
player
actually do.
so that I can play Nick Burgess's cassettes.
That's a good reason to have a cassette player.
We have a combined record player and cassette player.
Nice.
Because
Oh, see.
Rona got a bunch of vinyl and she wanted to play them, and this was
See,
like a good, decent one that she
Uh-huh.
got. So
I have a vinyl player, but I just am not up to date on my outdated media. And haven't gotten I did find a very cool cassette player bundle that was like with some cassette tapes of a specific artist that I like, but it sold out very fast, and at that point I was like, well, that was really the only cassette player I was interested in. But now, can't miss out on all the seasons of the cassette tapes. Maybe it's time to get one. The other thing is, if everybody has that mentality and it doesn't sell well, then maybe they won't do a bundle.
oh no, don't do this to
Maybe
me.
it
No. Oh.
Gotta show them that it's worth reprinting it or
Please.
redoing
That's
it.
right.
Whatever.
Please subscribe to my Patreon so I can afford these. It's for the podcast. Princess Farmer, the match 3 visual novel hybrid farming game thing, is coming to mobile devices in early 2023. Have either of you played this game?
Mm-mm. It intrigues me, but I just haven't had it was so low on my
Yeah.
list of interest that I never got to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. They haven't said what it's coming to, but I'm guessing it's coming to iOS and Android, because presumably if it wasn't coming to both, they would have specified which. Like,
Right.
nobody says mobile devices and then it just comes out on iPhone, right?
Yeah.
You hope it.
They say
don't.
iPhone if it's just coming out on iPhone. Disney Dreamlight Valley have a new hotfix for the update that's just happened, and also some really weird teaser about aliens and socks, and I'm very intrigued by this. They are getting this, like, this game. They know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, they definitely do. It's definitely, I haven't done anything with this yet, so I don't know, but I'm assuming it's gotta be like Lilo and Stitch content, right?
Oh,
Wasn't
yeah,
that
of course.
like the sock thing, and then the crash
That's a good point.
vehicle looks like a
Why
spaceship.
didn't I think of that?
because there's so many Disney things.
It's true, and it's not the like first Disney movie I think of when I
Yeah.
think about Disney content.
I'm not the only one in outer space, I guess, but I don't know what Wally has to do with socks.
I love Wally so much.
Wally is so good.
Yes, Wally can have whatever Wally wants.
True. So if Wally wants some socks.
Yeah.
Or some hand socks? Oh my goodness.
Oh my god. Wally mittens.
Yes.
It's really funny in the discussion on the Steam forums. Someone's like, 5 days for this? That's way too long. And I'm like, 5 days? Is that long enough to get something done? My word, you people! What are you want?
It seems
Calm
short.
down. Yeah, calm down. My word.
Well, now that I know it's only 5 days, when is the event?
I don't actually know. I don't know where they got the 5 days from, but whatever. I mean, I think the thing about Dreamlight Valley is I think it's just like the teasing, the socks being around in game is just going to be for a short period of time. But like that's not the actual game, right? Like it's just a teaser for whatever the next update is, and we all know that. So we'll be able to play all of the important content when it comes out. Like they're not going to have exclusive early access storylines, right?
Yeah.
Like they've got the stuff like
it's Disney,
and a free to play game, so they got to make their money somehow.
They've got the exclusive clothes and furniture and stuff like that, but I don't think they'll do exclusive early access storylines.
Yeah.
Garden Galaxy, which is a game that I talked about a few episodes ago. It's like a weird it almost feels like a merge game. You know the games I mean?
Yeah.
Merging game.
Oh, yeah, like
Merge. I'm blanking on that one app game. Merge Dragon. Yes.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Drag the eggs onto each other and then they become a bigger
egg. It almost feels like that kind of gameplay, but not like clearly a scam. Anyway, it's out now on Steam.
I feel like I've played like an idle game that kind of looks like this, where you're kind of building tiles of potted plants and grass and whatnot and buildings. So I wonder if it's going to be similar to that, because that was also an idle game.
Right. Oh yeah, I hadn't noticed. It said it was an idle game. That's interesting.
There were some elements of that type of like merge kind of idle gameplay in Dragalia Lost.
Ooh.
Which
interesting
is, rest in peace. But I wonder, I always kind of liked that, like the castle town building portion of that. So I wonder if it maybe scratches that itch a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. That's all our news, which is a lot of news considering there was no news like 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah. Everybody saw Harvest Moon announce something and they got really excited. Got in the spirit.
I know, right? Amazing. Certainly didn't have new Harvest Moon game in like a week before Christmas on my bingo card.
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to talk about our farming games of 2022. There are quite a few games that came out this year and games that we covered. A few, I really should have listed which ones. Like I shouldn't have had these two lists completely. I like this, but I'm just going to read lots of words and then we're going to get into some discussion. So, games that came out this year: Wildflowers, Coral Island Early Access, Disney Dreamlight Valley Early Access, Doraemon Story of Seasons, Friends of the Great Kingdom, Harvestella, Re-Legend, Beasties, Apico, Rune Factory 5, Village Monsters, Cult of the Lamb, Slime Rancher 2 Early Access, Ooblets, Ooblets 1.0, Harvest Days Early Access, Little Witch in the Woods. Did I say Bear and Breakfast? Bear and Breakfast and Coral Lost Days. I think that's it. The games that we covered: Farmville 3, Let's Build a Zoo, 100 Days, Rune Factory 5, Lens Island, Apico, Parkosaurus, Garden Paws. We had the Spiritfarer updates, Bear and Breakfast, Ooblets, and Coral Lost Days, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Cult of the Lamb, Doraemon Story of Seasons, Friends of the Great Kingdom, and Coral Island. Have I missed anything?
I don't
Who
think
knows?
so.
There's a lot of games.
Comprehensive list.
So previously what we've done is we've all just brought our games to the table, the ones that we generally 3 or 4 games that we think should be considered the farming game of the year, and then we argue and debate which one should be crowned. This year might be difficult. The previous winners in 2019, Doraemon Story of Seasons was the winner.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, Summer and Mara was the winner. And in 2021, Spiritfarer was the winner. So those are our previous winners. Who wants to bring their games to the table first?
I do, because it's definitely going to be the one that wins.
Wow.
Coming out swinging.
Right.
Ooblets. Ooblets. That is my number one vote for Game of the Year. It's just fantastic. It's just so quirky, so cute. The monster collection aspect of it. And then it's a farming game. It's just everything that I want all in one. And then also the card game, like battle dancing mechanics is also fantastic. Should we just do like one each and then so we slowly get through all 4? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Micah, bring one.
I have a few on my list. But I guess I'll talk about Shin-Chan Summer Vacation, which I really, really loved. Very, very good game. It had just so much character and such a unique sense of style. I don't know, just like a really, really nice, comforting experience that had a whole handful of the like sim experiences that we're used to and that we like farming and bug catching and fishing, and it's just you're just reliving the same 7 days kind of on a loop with new story beats every time, but there's so much of that game that you can just play when you need something to mess around in and pick up and just kind of aimlessly do some things that make you feel good or give you some level of serotonin. And there's other aspects to it, like working at a newspaper and taking pictures and having stories go into the newspaper that are exciting or intriguing for the people that live in the village. And it just is such a feel-good game that is very unique in its style and approach to anything I've ever played. It's the same developer as there's a series of games called like My Summer Vacation or like Natsuyatsumi in Japan that we never got. There were PS1, PSP, I think there were like 4 of them, but it's the same style of hand-painted environments, like really beautiful environments and kind of like moving around these areas. And it's that game, but with the added layer of a Crayon Shin-Chan skin to it and, story elements that match. And it's just, I don't know, it's such a wonderful game, and I feel like it was really under-promoted and kind of flew under a lot of people's radars that I think would really, really love it. And it gave me an experience with a game that I haven't had in a very long time. So
interesting. I had not heard of this game before. Trust you to bring a game for Game of the Year that I hadn't heard of it. It looks like it came out in August and it came out in Japan last year.
It did, yeah. So I had purchased the Japanese version because it was seemingly very unlikely that it was going to get localized. There was no discussion about it being localized.
Yeah.
It's such a like kind of niche thing that the likelihood of it being localized was pretty low. But sure enough, this year they localized it. So I was kind of like, with my very limited Japanese, trying to like work my way through the game, because it's simpler. It's intended for like a younger audience, so the the way that it's written and everything feels a little bit more like easier to read and easier to understand if you know at least, very, very minimal Japanese. So I kind of struggled my way through that, but when it got localized, I was very excited to be able to, enjoy that experience in a more casual way, in my, native language. So,
yeah,
it's very good.
I'm gonna add it to my wish list.
Yeah, same. No, it looks fun. Looks interesting.
Looks so cute.
It is very cute. One of the coziest games I think I've ever played.
Yeah, interesting. So my top one is also Ooblets, but I'm obviously not going to bring that just now because it's been bought. But I'm just going to back it up as well. So I guess I'll bring Disney Dreamlight Valley as my second.
Can we really count that though?
Yes, we can.
It's still in beta. It's still in beta. I thought we had the rule.
Well, no, we didn't. No. The rule was for demos. We can't do a game that has demos, right? And that's why we didn't have Apico last year. A demo does not count as a game release, right? Early access, I think, is fine. I'm not saying that. So I don't think that it would. I don't. Ooblets was reasonably close to winning in 2020.
True.
Right? And it didn't win, but it didn't not win because it was an early access. It didn't win because, as a group, we agreed that Summer and Mara was the game to win instead. I think that it's totally fair to bring an early access game. I think it's also totally fine if that wins this year and then wins in next year or the year after when it comes out of early access. Because I think the thing is that, like, Game of the Year is not necessarily about a finished game, right? It's about the game that you enjoy. It's about the game that captures you. And it's about the game that captures a culture or like just the gaming industry or the farming gaming industry in this case, right? Like it's not just about what was released,
I haven't played it. So that's I want to cut it out. I want to cut it out of It's on both of yours. Oh, but nope, that was a spoiler.
Got it. I'm a little confused because I thought that Dreamlight Valley was finished. Is it not?
No.
So Disney Dreamlight Valley is officially in early access. But the interesting thing is it's in a weird position where you can buy the game just now, but once it comes out of early access, the game is free to play.
What? But I spent like $50 on the game. What do you mean?
I'm sorry to tell you, Micah, but the game's going to be free when it comes out.
Why is that? Why was that not clear? I feel like I've been had.
You have.
Also, just to let you know, you didn't have to buy the $50 one. That just got you some
I don't know what. I can't remember which one I bought, but it was definitely real money.
Yeah, I know. You could spend up to $80 if you on the game, but it's a really weird way they've done it. I totally get that it's really weird, but yeah, it's officially in early access.
This is wild news to me.
You do. I suspect they'll do like you get a whole bunch of extra stuff when the game comes out if you bought it in early access.
Mm.
So it's not like you're just gonna have the same game that everybody else gets for free. But yeah, I mean, I think this game is really good. I haven't played it as much as I want to, purely because I don't. So I've been playing it on Game Pass because I don't want to pay for it just now. But I like the only way I can play Game Pass on my Steam Deck is with cloud gaming, which is fine, but it's also not the best way to play it. So I really want to install it on something and play it locally without having to be connected to the internet. And that's why I've not played it as much as I could. But
you can buy it on the Switch if you want. I know from experience.
But what I love most about this game is just like, this could have been just a cash grab. This could have just been like a nostalgia mashup. But it's so much more than that. I mean, it is that. It is just nostalgia, but it's more than just nostalgia. Like, and I love how like it's thing, when I talked about this in the podcast episode we did on it, it's simple things like you go into Mickey's house and he's got the costume from Fantasia there, right? Like just these weird small callbacks to things from decades ago.
Yeah.
And so many characters from so many different generations, childhoods, all mashed together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I will ever care about Remy from Ratatouille. I don't think I ever will. Even if I end up actually watching that film, I don't think I'll care about him. But he's there with everyone that I do care about. I also don't really care about Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse annoys me. But he's there with all the ones I do care about.
Yeah.
And the farming aspect of this is possibly one of the best farming mechanics I've played. It is so good. It's a little bit buggy. It could be better, but I think they're improving that over time. But the concepts of what they've done, the ideas, the design behind it is just so nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best farming. It's certainly the best farming mechanics I've seen in a non-farming game, right? It's not primarily a farming game. It's just it has farming as part of it.
Right.
Which is like, how does it does better than like every single Harvest Moon game.
Which is a farming game.
Yeah, well, exactly. Which is entire purpose was farming.
Yeah. It definitely is a very surprising experience. You know, I had seen people talk about it. I saw how it looked. It looked very pretty. The like idea of, you know, doing these quests for these characters that I'm familiar with seemed really fun. And that was why I picked it up originally. But the way that the game is structured is really convenient. Like it just feels good to play.
Yeah.
And it also, it makes more sense now knowing that it's an early access game, but seeing how much they are, dedicating to like supporting the game longer term, makes it feel like there's still plenty of content that's going to happen, which makes me...
It is that, but it's also not just that, because they're communicating well with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the hotfix details are so detailed. Like, we fixed this bug, and we fixed this bug, and we fixed this bug. Like, game developers don't... PR then, right? The developers aren't the ones deciding that. The game PR don't do that. Mm-hmm. They go, we fixed a bunch of bugs. Oh, great. No, this one's telling you which bugs they fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're like giving you this timeline of these are the updates are coming. They've got random little bits about upcoming content updates that they've not fully told us about that they're teasing. It's like it's fun. It's just fun and well designed and well implemented, and their PR is weird, and is this early access? Isn't it early access? What is the deal with it? The cost is all very weird. But other than that, it's just really nicely done, well communicated. It's a good game.
I have a feeling like the early access like costing is probably not in like the devs like call. It's just like a Disney thing. Like, we need to make money off of this right now to continue making this.
Right. Sure, but you can't say, oh, this it's still a negative against it, right?
Yeah.
You have to take the game as a whole.
It definitely could be clearer. I agree.
No kidding.
But I think that the like event portion of it, and that, thinking about it now, I feel like maybe as I'm getting older, I'm more excited about games that have this kind of like, there's going to be content updates, or there's going to be events or whatever, and it's maybe the event is a week long or a couple weeks long or something like that. And that concept is more exciting to me now as a, someone who plays games and is getting old and decrepit. Because the idea that I can like pick up this game later, I don't need to sink a ton of hours into it. I'll be able to, pick it up at random intervals to do an event, and I'll still get my like gameplay out of the game or my content out of the game, and then maybe put it down, and then when they do an event again, I'll revisit it again. It makes me feel like I'm getting so much more out of what I'm paying for, what I paid for. But that, like they're doing with Pokemon, where they have events or like raid weekends or whatever, that I like that because it feels like the content is way more digestible for my busy schedule, and it feels like I'm always getting, I always have something to look forward to out of this game. So.
Mm-hmm. I do like that they're kind of doing like a phased approach as they bring in new players, because I feel like, at least from the beta games that I played, like Ooblets did that so well, where they just introduced like new sections. So I could see having a fully functioning, for the most part, game, and just adding on to it as you bring in new characters and new events is a really, really clever way to do it, and it's successful, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Just saying, also, Ooblets, just another plug for Ooblets. They also have events. Just saying, there's a winter event going on right now until the end of the month, so you can go get some winter sweaters.
Snowballs.
I really want those sweaters. I would pay actual money to have those sweaters IRL. Please, Ooblet devs, if you're listening to this.
Bev, what's your next one?
My next one is Cult of the Lamb. I had such a fun time with it, and like Atomic Crops, oddly enough, as stressful as that game was, it was my introduction to roguelites, and I feel like this game does it very well, where it just doesn't feel like it's going to take like an hour to get in and get out of this this dungeon, but then it has like the really cute like aspects when you come back to like your little cult hub area, and you could do all the farming and taking care of them, and all the really ridiculous thing like murdering them and making them poop and other things. So I just love how silly this game is and how cute and just fun it is to play.
I've not played Cult of the Lamb.
Micah! Is there any game that all three of us have played that isn't Pokemon? Come on.
I guess we just gotta make Pokemon the game of the year, huh? Farming game of the year? No, I don't know. I just have never been a fan of roguelikes and roguelites. So
I agree with you. I hate them. This is not that. People keep calling this a roguelite. I guess technically it is, but it doesn't feel like it, right? Like what? So the roguelite part of it is that you go out. It's the aspect where you're going out into like dungeons to get stuff and come back. Those runs are very short, and if you die in the run, you basically just lose some of what you got on the run. You don't lose anything else. You go back to your village, you're resurrected, and you can just try it again. It's like literally that those runs take like a couple of minutes, and if you succeed, you get a bunch of stuff, and if you don't succeed, you don't, basically. So it's absolutely not got all the bits of roguelites and roguelites that I hate.
That doesn't have that more.
Yeah, and it has like 4 different sections. So it's like you're not like Hades. I don't know if you're familiar with Hades, but you like go through the different areas, and you have to do it in that order in order to get to the surface or whatever, which I still haven't done yet. I need to work on that. But like the different areas that you can unlock stay unlocked, and you don't have to do all 4 of them at the same time, which is what I think what makes it so short.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I did, it's weird. I did like Hades. I didn't play it as much as everybody else did, obviously, because I think it's just my natural aversion to that type of game, but it's I don't know. I hear roguelike, or I hear like roguelite, and it's like my brain just shuts off. It's like, yeah, that's okay. But I trust your opinions, so maybe.
Yeah, I totally get that.
I see that. I'm not unaware of how much people talk about how much they love it. So.
Like you really only need to go out right? Like for resources. Otherwise you could stay on your place the whole time, which is fantastic.
Yeah, so I deliberately died during one run just to see what would happen, because I was like, this is going to be a big part of whether I like this game or not. And when it just put me back, and I had some of what I'd got when I was out, but not all, and I hadn't lost anything that was like in the village, I was like, okay, that's good. That's what I wanted. Like I hate when you lose things that you've like already built up and stuff like that, or if it's like a complete reset or anything. Like I hate those so much.
I think it's primarily the like repetition that I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about. I know.
We're talking about farming games. What are you talking about? Repetition.
And every time I play a farming game, I do the same like 9 square like layout every single time. Do the same thing. I don't know what it is.
Exactly, repetition. You like repetition. Don't lie.
You just don't like the punishment for the failure of repetition.
But then I play Elden Ring, and
yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it's the idea of like the thought of, I have to be like when I'm doing a farming game, I'm doing something repetitive in a farming game. It's mostly mindless. I think it's maybe the idea that I have to be like engaged and cognizant of what I'm doing over and over for these roguelikes.
Think of it like the mines in Stardew.
Yeah.
It's very similar combat to that, but slightly nicer and more fluid, with more options and stuff. It's not like super complicated. It's basically like the mines, but you have to use them for more stuff, basically.
And there's ways to like increase like your difficulty level and stuff, but I feel like for the most part, I didn't have much of an issues beating those like mini bosses or whatever.
Yeah, it's not ridiculously hard. It's not super easy if you go on the default level, but it's not super hard either. But it does have some easier difficulty levels as well. But yeah, no, I think it's really good.
Well, I will take both of your word for it and add it to my wish list.
Also, there's just like a mini game in there that I just love. Like Knucklebones is
Knucklebones.
So I just want to play Knucklebones. Is that what it's called? Am I getting that right?
I think
you do in Knucklebones.
Okay, well, I don't know. It's like a dice game where you have 3 different lanes, and you're trying to have the highest amount of like numerical like additions in that section. But when you place a dice, like if you rolled a 5 and your opponent has a 5 in that same lane, you can place it down. It will remove that dice from that lane from your opponent. So there's some level of strategy and chance to it.
See, that sounds fun.
I don't know. It's just
that sounds more fun to me than Dungeons.
Right?
Micah, your next one.
Well, you kind of already covered Dreamlight Valley, which was also on my list. So I put Doraemon 2 on my list because I still love it. And I know that we've already awarded Game of the Year to a Doraemon Story of Seasons game, but I do think that this is the better of the Doraemon games. And I think, we talked about that in our episode about it, that it vastly improved on a lot of the really great farming game foundation that the first one provided. And there are so many things in this game that I think I would love to see carried over into other farming games. So it really kind of like, I don't know, it's this Doraemon spin-off Story of Seasons series is becoming like my gold standard for what I'd like to see farming games do, I guess. I don't know. It's just such a good game. It's the art style is great. It's cozy. I think that one of the things that maybe was our points of contention, Al, when we were talking about it, was that I really loved how it got you to interact more with the characters in the world, which I typically don't do as much in farming games. And I know that you don't want to talk to anybody, so that was the drawback.
I don't want to have to talk to anybody. There's a difference there.
Yeah, on your own terms, understandably.
Exactly.
But I did like that, and I felt like that was a unique experience for me for farming games, because I typically neglect those relationships in favor of just farming, and the way that it kind of nudges you into hearing these stories, like learning about these characters and hearing their stories and things like that, made it, I don't know, just such a good experience.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have this on my list, and it's not because it's not a good game, and it's not because we gave Game of the Year to the previous one in 2019. I don't think that should stop us doing that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree with you that the second game is better than the first game. It absolutely is. My issue is it's more of the same, and that's fine. But for some reason, that wasn't what I was looking for this year.
Yeah.
And
it's different, different release environments too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good game. It absolutely is a good game. And I had fun with it. I didn't keep playing it after the episode. I didn't feel the need to complete anything in it.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of when they force me into character development. It's like I would much rather I really like how Stardew does it, where as you talk to people through quests in the game, like there are advantages to talking to people in that game. It gives you things if you talk to people, and it makes it very clear from very early on with the board in the town square that talking to people gets you things. Mm-hmm. So you automatically start doing that because, of course, I want to get things, right? As you talk to them more, you get these very short clips of them, which intrigue you.
Yeah.
And that's how you get me into character development stuff in farming games. Intrigue me. Very short things that make me go, ooh, I want to know more about this. And then I go into that. Whereas the way that Doraemon Story Seasons Friends of the Great Kingdom did it was by forcing me to get into that bit. And I was like, this isn't intriguing me, this is just annoying me. Like, just let me play the game for a while before you force this all in my face. You know?
I mean, I like that, like, the talking aspect counts for, like, when you're literally just coming up to them to buy materials. Like, that counts as a friendship, like, trigger or addition or what have you, which doesn't work that way in Stardew. You have to go walk around to actually talk to Pierre and, like, the bartenders. So, like, theoretically, you could not talk to any of these people and just buy their stuff and slowly develop their friendships that way, other than, like, you know, the plot itself.
I think that's a really important point that I think I never really knew how to communicate, but that absolutely nails it. The idea that the bar for entry for, like, fostering those relationships is so low that it just kind of happens naturally is what I like. That you're absolutely right, because there is a lot more. I think the effort of, like, you got to bring this person a gift every day, or you have to, like, go out of your way to find them and talk to them, and it takes up a chunk of your time trying to track them down, and all of these things really takes away from my desire to pursue them. And in this game, I think the fact that it happens so easily, it makes me feel more interested in pursuing them, because it's not, it's not taking me time away from my, like, allotted time throughout the day that I'm able to do things. And it also, I understand that perspective that it feels forced. I think maybe actually what's happening is just because it's so easy, it's just it's happening more naturally. But
see, this is the thing, it doesn't feel natural to me. It doesn't. I will say, I think the cutscenes is the problem. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know, like, the cutscenes happen, like, all the time. It's not like in Stardew where you talk to them for a week and then you get a cutscene. It's you talk to them, you get a cutscene, you talk to them, you get a cutscene, you talk to them, you get a cutscene. And I'm like, I want to play the game. I don't want to watch a film. I want to play the game. It's like Stardew lets you play the game and then slowly adds those things as you get to know people. Like, I don't think, you said the word natural. I don't think it feels natural in this game. It feels forced. And maybe if they had less of the cutscenes early on, that would probably be it. And, like, I get what you're saying about, like, the finding people. Absolutely, I get that. But I mean, to me, it feels like it's like that feels more realistic and more like real life. That feels more natural to me, right? Like,
Yeah, but
people aren't just going to be in the same place all the time.
I don't want to have to track everybody down. You know, I'm a busy guy. Right. I got a lot of crops to water.
This is the thing, right? You're not you naturally start to learn where people are because you're out exploring, right? You're out exploring and looking at things. There's no real exploration in Doraemon, right?
No,
like, it's not really designed.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I feel like it could be like part of like the fact that Doraemon feels more story driven than farming driven, like farming mechanics. So like having those cutscenes is adding to that flavor of like the overall storyline and the plot and what have you. Whereas like Stardew does have, you know, that story aspect in it, but it's more integrated into the game, so you have to play the game to actually figure out what that story is, right? But if you just want mindless stories thrown at you, then this is good.
And I know that this is definitely not like, you know, where we see eye to eye on it. I do feel like the progression, when I said natural, I guess what I meant was the progression is more natural. It's more happening in the background than you realize, and it was, you know, there were many times where I didn't even know I was as far along on a friendship with someone as I was until I, you know, saw either the like heart upgrade or the cutscene happen. And there were certainly, like I said on the episode when we talked about it, there were certainly days where I would start the day, get ready to do all my like farming tasks for the day, and I'd get hit with like 5 cutscenes in a row. And so I do agree that like, yeah, the cutscenes are a little much. I think that there was a better way that they could have done that for sure. But I do think that, you know, it kind of is moving you through the story at a faster pace so that you can experience it and then get to the rest of the game, you know, that like kind of nonstop gameplay loop of farming.
See that's the thing, right? Like I don't want to get through the story to get to the game. I want to play the game and have the story come to me slowly, you know?
Sure.
Like it's
and I mean, you are, it's game, just,
you know,
you're not spending your entire days doing the same, you know, like farming tasks. It's broken up into, you're doing your farming tasks and you're doing, you know, your story elements,
socializing,
right? And then once that story, because it really felt like it was, you know, they were trying to get through as much of the story as possible in the first year, and then after that, it's, if you want it to be the same, you know, kind of repetitive day to day, I'm growing this many crops and I'm watering this and I'm doing this, you know, crafting this thing or whatever, then you can get to that after, you know, like as your like daily schedule that you set for yourself.
Yeah, the problem is like
after the fact.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, is like it's really hard to get in, for me, it's really hard to get into a habit after you've been playing the game for a year, you know? Like, and it just, it pushed me into not wanting to play the game rather than, you know, as you say, you know, intrigued by this. I just felt like it was shoving it in my face and I didn't want that at that point, you know?
Yeah.
But
sure,
that's definitely a personal preference thing. I get that.
And I will say one of the things that I did like is that, like, there are certain mechanics of the farming that are accessible from the beginning. Like, I didn't realize I can go buy a chicken right from, like, day one if I wanted to. Or a cow or an alpaca. Like, I had everything, you know, at my fingertips, unlike with some of these other games where you have to, like, tediously go through unlocking all the buildings and then building them and saving up for everything.
Yeah.
And then
that's very fair. But equally, there's less of the, because if you have that, there's less of the expansion style. Like, one of the things I really like about farming games is like, you are creating a bigger farm, you're creating more stuff. Whereas Doraemon is like, the only real expansion you have is how many plots of farm that you are using at any one point. due to how much energy you can use up. That's
and plots of
basically the
story
only-
you're
Upgrade.
unlocking with cuts.
Yeah, but
I mean, you can
I'm
still
just
upgrade the buildings. Like, that's still
yeah, but
accessible.
it doesn't really feel the same. I
I
like
think
when you can
the
have
idea
more
that like
buildings.
you don't. I don't know. Maybe this is.
You don't have to earn it.
Yeah, you don't
earn your
earn
cows.
I was trying not to say like you gotta earn it. You gotta earn your, but yeah, like you don't earn your livestock the same way you do by like saving and trying to. So it is kind of just handed to you, and it's a little bit easier to. I don't know, but that's part of what I like about it though is that like it's different in that way that it's a more streamlined experience, and I think that is definitely in favor of the story. They're doing that in favor of the story, but it's a different experience than what I think we're used to for farming games, especially ones that they all have some level of story.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it was kind of neat to feel like I was getting through the story, where most of the time with farming games I play through, unless it's really something that I really want to get into, I play through a year to 2 years of seasons and maybe barely scratch the surface of the story, and then I put it down and I never come back to it again. So I never I did 2 years of the same tasks, which kind of satisfied that immediate need for like feedback, but I didn't learn anything about the story of the game in that time frame, so I like that Doraemon kind of helped me
That's fair.
feel
We've
like I got through the story.
We've definitely hit the barrier of personal preference here.
Yep,
I think that's
for sure.
That's totally fair. It's not mine. It made the game less enjoyable for me. But in every other aspect, I agree with you. It's definitely a better game than the first one.
Right.
It was just that kind of aspect. I just didn't really capture me, and I played what I needed to play to review it, and then I was done, which I'm sad about, like, because I loved the first one so much. But anyway, I also had Cult of the Lamb, so that's another vote for that one. And my last one then is Bloom, which I know is not going to win this, right? I'm not here to make it win. I just need to talk about it. Bloom is such a good game. And I know that like the market for it is so tiny because it's like it's on the play date, and you have to have a play date, and you have to be a farming game enthusiast realistically to play this game. But this game is so good. Like it's
one of the only reasons I want to play date. From listening,
that is a good
about
reason.
Yes.
That is a good reason to want to play it.
Exactly.
The storytelling mechanic of text messages is so clever. The simple graphics is so fun. The farming is really, really simple, but there's quite a lot of different plants, although its biggest issue is once you've unlocked a more expensive plant, why on earth would you go back to a cheaper one? Because you just make more money from the more expensive ones. There's literally no reason to go back to the previous ones because you don't have like quests and stuff like that. So I think it could have been built out into a bigger game. It kind of feels like a first version or a tech demo type idea, which is why I'm totally fine with it not winning. But like it's absolutely one of my top games of this year. I had so much fun, and I played it for weeks on a dedicated console for weeks, like maybe half an hour a day, every day for weeks and weeks, which is very rare for me.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive especially because it's a dedicated console. It's it's the only thing you're playing on it. I'm gonna have to take your word for it because I don't have a play date to play it on, but I certainly would love to. It sounds very good. You're definitely selling me on it.
I don't know if I can justify buying a Playdate just for the Bloom, but I'm considering it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other games. There are so many other games on the console. None of them have caught me quite like this game.
Right.
And that's totally fine, right? This game is just something special. I think it's never going to win awards. It's never going to be a Stardew Valley, but there's something just so good about this game that I needed to shout it out.
Yeah.
Valid.
Right, we're back to Bev.
All right, I will say my next one, which is Apico. I forget.
Apico.
Okay, Apico.
Yeah.
That was not one of
This
those.
is like apiary.
Oh, okay. I feel like Cody would disown me, I feel like, as a friend if I didn't bring it up. At least like one of us mentioned Apico. I can't.
Well, my dirty little secret is it was on my list, and I was like, I'm going to mention this if no one else does, but if someone else does, I'm deleting it from my list.
How that is awful, Owl. It definitely deserves a place here. I mean, just the fact that Cody is an NPC alone, I would bring it for that reason.
Yeah.
And just the whole premise of it, like I just love the amount of like information and like knowledge that like went into building this game, and like it just feels good to like, look, I'm like collecting this one specific type of bee and releasing this bee, and now I have repopulated this. It is no longer endangered. I've done my good job as a beekeeper to, I don't know, like it's just. It feels very good. It looks very cute. It's very, like, it could get very complicated if you really wanted to delve into it. I know some of it, like the breeding aspects, like overwhelmed me a little bit at times. But it's definitely a game that I want to spend more time in and, like, explore more in.
I 100% agree with you that it needs to be mentioned today, which was why it was on my list until I saw that it was on your list. It's only not on my list because I have a thing about management games, and it's not the most stressful of management games, and it's not technically a management game, but it feels like it, and therefore it's not my style of game. That doesn't mean it's not a good game. It absolutely is, and it needed to be mentioned, and I'm so glad you did, so I didn't have to. It's a great game, and more people need to play it. It needs more press. It's a very good game. It's just not my kind of game. That it's one of these things where it's like, it's not. There are games where I don't enjoy them, and they're bad games, and I call them out as bad games. This is not that. This is a game that I totally understand why people love this game, and totally, I think it's a very well designed game, both in terms of its science, which is proven by Cody, and in terms of its gameplay, and in terms of its style, and just everything about it, its soundtrack, everything about it is so good. It just doesn't mesh with me, and that's fine. Like that's what happens.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think that's very much how I feel about it too. I really, really love how much they put into it, how much, actual science and actual, like knowledge and everything that you get from it, like things that you learn. I think it's great. It's really wonderful. But I think also I'm in that same boat where, as far as management games go, it's not my like favorite thing. Definitely more of a management type game fan than I am a roguelike fan. But yeah, I think it is absolutely something that like I know I'm going to play at some point. It has taken the back seat because of how many things came out this year that
it was a lot.
Yeah.
am drawn to, because it's a type of game, like a style of game that I know I like,
Yeah. I mean, if I could be a game dev, I feel like I would design a game like this where it's like fun to play, given that, management style games isn't for everyone, but there's an educational component to that. And like, there's, I don't know, there's just so much like, I'm putting my like environmental scientist like hat on. Like there's so much outreach that needs to be done, so much education that needs to be done. And being able to do this in a fun and clever and cute way is just so fantastic. And I want more games like this.
I absolutely agree with that 100%.
Yeah. And that's absolutely why, even if I knew I was never going to play this game, I would still buy it, because I think it's important to support games that you want to exist, even if they're not your game. It's not a game for me, but it's a game I want to exist, as you say. Absolutely. And I love that people love it. Like it, people really do. And they are another example of a developer who are supporting it after release with more updates.
The butterflies.
Free updates. Butterflies, solitary bees, Cody. All the important
the best
things.
Update.
It's so cool. And I that's the other thing too. I really love bugs, and I love I love a lot. There are a lot of games that I like that if it's got bugs in it or bug catching or bug, like befriending or whatever, it can easily sell me on it. So I think that aspect of it too is definitely something that makes me want to play it. I didn't know they were adding butterflies, but I'm even more excited now.
Yes.
It's out on, the update for them is out on Steam, but not on Switch.
Gotcha.
Micah, I think you have the pleasure of giving us the final game that's in any of our lists.
Okay. Harvestella. We talked about it on the greenhouse.
Yeah. If you didn't listen to that episode, that if you're not a Patreon supporter, and if you didn't listen to that episode, the short and long of it is Micah loves the game. I hate it.
I will say it is the only game that all three of us have played.
And also, it's on Bev's list.
Yes.
So,
yes. So, just pointing it out there. Just throwing it out.
I've said a lot about it there, but I think the reason that it makes it into my game of the year for specifically farming games is as a diehard JRPG fan, it scratches so many itches that I want in farming games and JRPGs. I described it on the Greenhouse episode as the Rune Factory game that I wish they would make, or what I have always dreamed Rune Factory would feel like. I think it's a beautiful game. I think it's a really satisfying loop. I think the way that they handle some of the farming elements in a kind of unique way is really cool. I don't know. Good story. I just really, really like it.
And it's on
I'm curious to hear what Bev has to say about it, though, because I've heard myself and Al talk about Harvestella.
I mean, I will also preface that I actually still only have the demo of Harvestella. I haven't, even...
I think the demo's enough to know whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And it's one of the games, I asked specifically for Christmas, please give me this game, because I know I really want it. And it's one of the games that I'm most excited to actually delve into because of most of the reasons that, Micah's already said. I haven't played a lot of JRPG games, but I know that I would love them. And just even delving into, the few that I have, this is definitely hitting that itch. It has... a really interesting story that I want to actually dive into and learn more about. It has I want to learn more about this world, and I feel like the name alone would have sold it to me. Harvestella, and just that you can use a wand for farming is also fantastic.
Yeah, multi-purpose farming wand.
It's fantastic. You don't need a whole tool belt to carry 10 different tools like we do in Doraemon. Just having that one thing is great. So yeah, I'm really excited to learn more and dive right into that. So that's why it's on my list, because it's one of the ones I'm most excited about.
It does win one award in my heart, and that's the biggest whiplash in an original reveal trailer. Do you remember the original trailer? It was oh, here's another farming game. Oh, it's blah 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 blah, and then it's and then the harvester, the season of death, and whoa! Oh my word, what just happened there? But yeah, no, it presents. I don't have anything nice to say about this game, personally.
I think story-wise, too, it presents that in a neat way that, it is a core mechanic of farming games where we joke about the season of death, but, when the season comes to an end and everything dies and you have to start over, it handles that in a like kind of unique way. In telling that story
to the plot.
of like, yeah, that, you know, everything that is touched by this, you know, this seasonal miasma dies, and you know, I won't go too much into the story because I know that, you know, but it's good. It's good. I like it a lot. And I think it does some really unique things that are really refreshing for farming games.
Yeah, and like since this is on both of our lists, like if I had a room for a fifth, I would have put Doraemon, and it doesn't surprise me that I think Micah and I are both gravitating towards this because of it seems more of a story focused game than a like farming focused game, like Doraemon, and why Al would be put off.
Yeah, but the difference is I have a lot of good things to say about Doraemon.
That's true.
And I don't want this to be a negative episode. So we have a fun situation here. So we have 4 games that 2 of us have said have on our lists. We have Harvestella, as mentioned. We have Cult of the Lamb. We have Disney Dreamlight Valley, and we have Ooblets. So this is where the fun begins.
I will, before you go any further, I just want to clarify that if I had played Ooblets this year, I probably would have put it on my list.
There you go.
However,
it's done.
I had played Ooblets when it first came out on Xbox, because at that time I think it was that or like Windows were the only options for playing it.
Yeah, they were.
And I really, really loved it. It was great, but I didn't include it this year because it personally for me didn't qualify as like a, you know, 2022 game.
I count it. I vote it. I vote that we count it.
Yeah, see, I think it definitely counts because it had, and maybe this is cheating, I don't know, but it essentially had 2 releases.
Yeah.
Right? It had the first one and it had the second one. And we were, as I said, we were very close to letting it win in 2020, but Summer Mara was just more supported. But I think the thing about the Ooblets release this year is I think it got a wider appeal from people. It got a wider number of, you know, more media attention, more people talking about it than the original one did because it was completed by that point.
Right.
So I think one thing I want to do is, does anyone have any, before we might end up saying Ooblets, but let's go through this entire process. So, do we have any vetoes? Personally, I would like to veto Harvestella. I do not think that should be Game of the Year. I'm not okay with it.
I would agree with anything that's like, if anyone has any very strong negative feelings like that, then I would be okay with vetoing it or voting it off.
I would too. You know, there are definitely like it's a collective Game of the Year, and I think if it's something that you're very adverse to, then it doesn't make sense for it to be part of the collective Game of the Year.
It's the only game I have played where I played the demo and that convinced me not to buy the game. Oh no! I tell you, I do have one positive thing to say about it. I said I had nothing positive to say about it. I have one positive thing to say about it. Gender non-binary option.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
For
it.
sure.
That's it. Like, it's a low bar. It's a very low bar.
It is.
But
it's a bar that not everything crosses.
Right. It's
for long enough.
Yeah. The first game that I think that I've played that hasn't.
Yeah.
So.
And it's such a like natural part of the character
it is.
creation too, that it's really it was really, really good to see.
Yeah. Okay, so we're agreed then. It's not Harvestella. Any other vetoes before we go on? So we're down to Ooblets, Cult of the Lamb, and Dreamlight Valley.
I will personally veto Shin-Chan because I'm the only one who's played it. As much as I strongly feel that is my personal Game of the Year, I understand that I'm the only one who's touched it. So,
Look,
however,
Micah, next time, mention it to us before the episode starts.
I had assumed that like it was something that was on, people who are into farming games and cozy games. It was on their radar.
I've literally
but
never heard of it before.
Maybe I was wrong. I will veto it though under one condition, and that condition is that at some point you guys play it because it's very worth it.
I will. I have already wished. Yeah, I just wish listed it, so it's there. I will get to it eventually.
Because I'm banking on it doing well enough that they localize the other summer vacation games at this point. So I'm fighting for that. But yeah, it makes sense that it would not be the game of the year because I'm the only one who played it. But my personal game of the year. So for whatever that's worth.
Okay, cool. So we're down to 3 again. It's Cult of the Lamb and Disney Dreamlight Valley. So are there any final vetoes before we get into debating these 3?
I mean, I could make an argument that at least at some point all of us have played Ooblets. So that I think alone can be a very, very strong indication to pick it. Since I didn't play I don't have any other vetoes, but I did want to say, like, if I had played Disney Dreamlight Valley, I think it would have been on my list. Because of all the good things that I've heard, all the good things that I've seen, like just on like people streaming it, and like this the podcast episode with you and Johnny was just, I'm very excited to play it.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that, I don't want to make a rule that early access cannot win Game of the Year, but I think it's fine that when we get down to the decision to say it's not its time, that's fine. Like if we don't think it's Game of the Year, because, well, let's be honest, there's still a lot in it that isn't finished, right? It's not one of these fully formed early access that they just add more features to. There are areas in the game that are there that you just can't get to. And I think it's totally fine to say, no, that's not going to win Game of the Year because of that.
Yeah. I mean, it could go through, some massive change that makes it a really terrible experience before release. I don't see that happening, but, it all bets are off, I guess, as far as expectations go for anything anymore. But I think that makes sense too. The up in the airness about it, I think, of it being in early access, I think does make sense that it,
and like
maybe disqualify it.
The other two are also so strong that I feel like, I would be more than happy with saying it's maybe next year it'll be the year of DDV.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're down to the 2 games that Micah didn't play. So
wait, hold on now.
Well, sorry, you played Ooblets. Sorry,
I did play.
We're down to the 2 games that Mike weren't on Micah's list. Oh, is that better?
Yeah. I mean, obviously more inclined to go for Ooblets than Cult of the Lamb. I think also that's because it's just Cult of the Lamb is just not my type of game. At least now, until I give it a shot and try it, when it goes on sale or something. But
yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're saying Ooblets. Like, we've all played Ooblets. We all liked Ooblets. Micah hasn't played it this year, but he still has played it and liked it.
It's my number one. I think it's Al's number one. So
it's absolutely my number one. Yeah, like for me, there was no question about what my number one would be.
Yeah,
like I wrote down my number one and then was like, oh, now I need to write more games down as well.
Yeah, I had to actually play other games to just justify like saying Ooblets is still my number one.
Yeah.
And if that's the of the options that I have as far as like games that aren't on my list, I have played enough of Ooblets. It just has been out of my like subconscious so long because it's been so long since I played it. That it wasn't in my immediate but I do love the game. It's a very good game, and I absolutely think it deserves Game of the Year
Beautiful.
All right then.
This was easier than I thought
Ooblets.
it was gonna be.
Yeah, I was really worried
looking at the
when
list,
none of us had. There was no game that was on all three lists. It was always a bit stressful. All right, awesome. Well, Ooblets, farming game of the year on the harvest season. Exciting. With obviously honorable mentions for Cult of the Lamb, Apico, Harvestella, Doraemon Story of Seasons, Friends of the Great Kingdom, which, by the way, come on, get a better name. Disney Dreamlight Valley, Shin-Chan Summer Vacation, and Bloom.
I will say Shin-Chan Summer Vacation's name is maybe worse. The full title is extremely long.
Oh, is it longer?
But, that's just... Yeah, it's like Shin-Chan, My Summer Vacation, and 7 Days with the Professor or something. I don't
Okay,
know.
here we go. Shin-Chan.
It's because of translation
Yeah.
issues,
I've got it here. It's better than you thought. Shin-Chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, The Endless 7-Day Journey.
There it is.
This title is endless.
Wow.
Maybe that was the intention. Like they just wanted a loop on the title as well.
Yeah.
No, no, it definitely sounds like a direct translation that probably flowed better in Japanese.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, all of the voice acting and everything, because there is a little bit of voice acting. They clearly did like the most minimal amount of localization as they could. So yeah, it makes sense. But
yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining me and having this fun debate of what the games this year are. And look, if you listeners like the sound of Harvestella, don't let me put you off playing it. I just hated everything about it. But you might not. Look, there are some people out there who hate Ooblets, right? So,
I don't want to hear
believe it.
I don't. Yeah. Do not buy. I will take constructive criticism, but hate, no.
So I will say that there's one thing that I've heard that I totally understand, and that's the cutesy stuff. So I was talking to Mark from the Slack that the Pokemon podcast Slack that I hang around in, and he was saying that the cutesy language just put him really off, which I totally understand. I get why some people might be annoyed by that.
That's like my selling point. So Mark and I will disagree on that.
Me too.
It's the sort of thing that if I heard like real people using that words, I would get really, really annoyed at them. But it being in a game that is set in a world where like this is like it doesn't feel weird and awkward to me. It feels like it's just part of the culture. Part of the world.
See, I say these words like IRL all the time. So I'm glad we don't talk more often, and I don't say these words to you because I do enjoy your friendship.
Well, look. Let's move on. I love you, Bev. Right. We so I guess we all have Twitters. I mean,
for the time being,
we've not really figured out where we're going to talk about being other than Twitter yet. So we're just going to keep going with Twitter until we figure out what the place to be is. I think we all have accounts on different places anymore. As well.
Either we decide where we're going to be, or we just are nowhere anymore.
The season of death takes in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
honestly, at this point, let the season of death take it.
It feels inevitable. But anyway, we'll keep going while it still exists. You can find me on Twitter at the ScottBot. You can find Bev on Twitter at BevGranger711. You can find Micah on Twitter at Micah the Brave. And presumably we have links to other places that we have on those Twitters. And
yes, indeed.
Look, what even is the internet anymore?
What is it?
You can find the podcast on Twitter at THSPod. You can also find all of the podcast-related stuff on our website, harvestseason.club, including a link to the Patreon, where you can find extra editions of the podcast, including one coming out in a week's time, where we talk about our favorite non-farming games of the year.
And argue more.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we argue more, but it was much easier to come to a conclusion.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's more civilized.
I think that's
yes,
everything.
if you call it that.
A lot more shared experiences on the non-farming side, than, surprisingly.
Is it?
Actually,
Look, we don't need to get back. We don't need to get into a debate about the debates. All right.
Okay.
Feel free to tell us what your favorite farming game of the year is, and tell me why I'm wrong for hating Harvestella.
And don't talk to me if you hate ooblets. Just don't.
Bev doesn't want to know you. I think. Am I missing anything? I think I'm good. I think that's everything. Yeah. All right. Until next time. Have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Rochelle Delaney and Al McKinley, with support from our pro farmer level patrons, Kevin and Stuart. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Thanks for listening.
The real problem with being a fiddler is when you drop the fiddling toys that you're fiddling with.
While you're recording.
Yeah,
We're all kind of fiddling with something right now.
Yep.
always.